Hello everyone and welcome to the Lightning Deadeye Ranger build for Passive Exile 2. For the past few days I have been having so much fun playing the Ranger class that I decided to put together this guide to help players new to Passive Exile 2 to also have a fun and fulfilling experience playing the Ranger class. This guide will cover so much information from what skills to use, to support gems, passive trees, ascendancy levels, and gear. So, by the end of this guide, you can use all this information to kickstart your adventure as a formidable Deadeye Ranger. Please keep in mind that this is not a complete guide, this is only part 1, but the information in this guide should take you from Act 1 and all the way to the beginning of Act 3. And I will do my best to release part 2 of this guide very soon, which should cover the rest of Act 3 and the endgame content. Let's go over the skills we are going to use in our build. First, we have Lightning Arrow. This is a very strong early game skill that deals lightning damage, and the core mechanic of the skill is that when the lightning arrow hits a wall or an enemy, it will bounce off and fire a chain lightning that damages nearby enemies. This mechanic is exactly what we need to trigger the lightning rod skill. Lightning rod will plant an arrow on the ground, and when you attack an enemy nearby with the lightning arrow skill, it will trigger lightning rod on the ground and create a burst of lightning damage around it. When you look at lightning rod damage, it might look weaker compared to other skills, but remember that you can plant more than one lightning rod on the ground to create a net of lightning rods that will chain react with every lightning arrow that bounces off enemies caught inside that net. This is basically going to be your core rotation with your hunter to plant multiple lightning rods around your enemies and then trigger them using lightning arrows. To help with this, we are using the Pierce support gem on the lightning arrow. This will allow the lightning arrow to pierce through your enemies, hence increasing your efficiency of dealing with multiple enemies. We are also using martial tempo to boost the attack speed of the lightning arrow. As for the lightning rod, we are using the scatter shot support gem. This way, when we cast lightning rod, we create 2 more projectiles on the ground. This way we can cover more area around the enemies with lightning rods. So when we cast lightning arrow, we create a big chain reaction around all enemies caught inside. We are also using the magnified effect. This will increase the lightning rod burst radius, so we can catch more enemies in the lightning burst. If you are curious about Stormcaller Arrow, I didn't enjoy playing with this skill as I felt it was a bit redundant and made my rotation clunky. However, feel free to try it and make your own opinion about it. One thing it does provide in the early game is an almost guaranteed chance to apply the shock status on your enemies, since it has 800% more chance to apply shock element on your targets. By the way, when you inflict shock on a target, that target will take 20% increased damage for 4 seconds. Another reason why I didn't feel the need for the Stormcaller Arrow skill is because I was using the Voltaic Mark, which is a lot faster and more effective at applying the shock debuff on my targets. It also provides a better version of shock than the one you get using other skills. The thing I love the most about the skill is when you kill the target holding the Voltaic Mark, it releases a lightning nova that inflicts really high damage to nearby enemies and has a 200% chance to apply the shock status to them as well. For the support gems, we are using Conduction to give Voltaic Mark an even better chance of inflicting the shock element on our targets. For the second slot, I was using Persistence to increase the duration of Voltaic Mark on the target. This is not necessarily going to help with small enemies, but against bosses it will save you some mana from constantly refreshing the mark since it has relatively higher mana cost compared to other skills. Later in Act 3, when I started getting support gems level 2, I swapped the Persistence gem with Coursing Current to have a better chance of inflicting the shock element on more nearby enemies. I can't emphasize enough the importance of applying the shock element on our targets, not only to get that sweet extra damage on our target, but it also goes into the core mechanic of our next ability, Herald of Thunder. After killing a target inflicted with the shock debuff, Herald of Thunder will grant you a buff that will cause your next 2 attacks to release lightning bolts that will damage all nearby enemies. Basically, killing that one target afflicted with the shock element will trigger Herald of Thunder to execute all nearby enemies. So your rotation at this point will be to plant multiple lightning rods on the ground, then mark one target with Voltaic Mark, then start shooting at that target with lightning arrow to kill him and trigger a big lightning explosion afterwards thanks to Voltaic Mark and Herald of Thunder. For the support gems, we are using Lightning Infusion to increase the lightning damage of the lightning bolts by 25%. We are also using the Execute gem to increase Herald of Thunder damage by 40% against enemy at 35% health or less. This makes so much sense since Herald of Thunder takes place at the end of enemy's back lifespan when all nearby enemies already have low health. When you start getting support gem level 2 in Act 3, replace the execute gem with primal armament. You will be able to obtain Herald of Thunder quite early in the game after you get your first spirit gem towards the end of Act 1 at level 10. It is a passive skill that works automatically, but you have to first activate it by opening your skill book and right-clicking on Herald of Thunder to activate it. Freezing Salvo is a fantastic skill. It accumulates 12 missiles over time, which you can use to deal high cold damage to your enemies and freeze them. It is extremely effective in both single target and AoE situations. For the support gems, we are using Glaciation to give Freezing Salvo a better chance to freeze our enemies. We are also using Hourglass, which will increase Freezing Salvo damage by 40%, but will increase its cooldown by 10 seconds. This is actually convenient since we have to wait for Freezing Salvo to accumulate its maximum charges anyway. When you manage to add an extra gem socket to your skills, you can use Cold Infusion to increase Freezing Salvo cold damage. Sniper's Mark is a skill that you can unlock relatively early in the game, around Act 2, but you will not be able to fully take advantage of the skill since hitting your marked enemy with a critical strike will grant you a frenzy charge, but you will have no way of consuming those charges until you get Rain of Arrows, a level 9 skill. This will happen around the last mission in Act 2. So until then, use all skill gems that you obtain to improve the skills we already covered. However, once you get your hands on Rain of Arrows, you will have a very strong tool to deal with single target enemies like bosses and elites. As I mentioned earlier, Rain of Arrows consumes your frenzy charges to increase its damage. And the way we are going to generate frenzy charges is by applying Sniper's Mark on your target and shoot the target with lightning arrows until one of them crit to consume the mark and generate frenzy charge. This is the reason I'm using the Prefusion gem to have a 50% chance to generate additional frenzy charges. You can have up to 3 frenzy charges at any given point. We are also using Second Wind to have one more additional Sniper's Mark. This way we have 2 Sniper's Mark to use back to back. As for the Rain of Arrows, it is important to use Perpetual Charge Gem. This gives Rain of Arrow a 35% chance not to consume our frenzy charges. Sometimes I accumulate 3 frenzy charges to create a very powerful Rain of Arrows, and it doesn't consume those charges, which is great because this way I will cast a second fully buffed Rain of Arrows after the first one ends. The second gem is Concentrated Effect. This will cluster those arrows in a small area and will make the skill a deadly tool against single target enemies. For the passive talents, I suggest you quickly grab Combat Alchemy to help with our mana issues, then get Blur to boost your survivability a little bit. After that, grab Vile Wounds and then work towards Harness the Elements to improve your elemental damage. Surging Currents is no brainer, we need this all the time to increase our lightning damage. Cat-like Agility, Escape Velocity, and Freedom of Movement are really good passives to grab next to further bolster our survivability. After that, you can grab Catalysis to increase your elemental damage. Maiming Strike to increase your attack damage and add some crack control to your attacks. I'm currently experimenting with Frazzled and Rattled. Frazzled seems useful to increase the potency of shock. Certainly grab Master of Fletching if you manage to find a good quiver. In the next few levels, I will go over here to increase my elemental damage by taking Emboldened, Avatar, Forces of Nature, Flash Storm, and Lightning Rod. As for the Ascendancy tree, we are going to invest our first points into Gathering Winds. This will give us 1% increased movement speed, skill speed, and 15% evasion rating per stack up to 10 stacks. This is going to give us a lot of mobility, damage, and survivability, and seems like the obvious choice for our first Ascendancy points. Later I will likely go and grab Wind Ward to get 3% less damage taken per Tailwind stack, but I'm also tempted to work towards Endless Munitions. Now let's go over our gear. For our main weapon we want a bow with as much added damage as we can possibly get. Ideally we want physical or lightning damage, but any added damage with other elemental types is better than no added damage at all. Ideally, you get a weapon with a lot of added damage as well as crit chance and attack speed. Life and mana on kills are not necessarily bad either. Always keep an eye out on vendor items and try to find a weapon with 2 sockets and use gems that add physical or lightning damage. Even if it is a magic quality, you will have plenty of upgrade materials to make it rare quality, while materials that create sockets are usually harder to come by at the beginning of the game. For your quiver, you are looking at the same things as the main weapon, lots of added damage, crit chance, and attack speed. For the armor, you are looking for pieces that have maximum life, elemental resistance, and evasion rating to bolster your defense. For boots, you should try to get one with a lot of movement speed to help improve your mobility to clear areas faster. Although I found these gorgeous boots early in my playthrough and they fit the Lightning Ranger build so much, but I will replace them very soon with something that has lots of movement speed. For your jewelry, you can get a rarity of items found percentage, but besides that, try to get lots of resistance and maximum life. For the belt, try to get one that increases life recovery from flasks. I have been having so much fun with my Deadeye Ranger, and I hope with the information I provided in this guide, you will also enjoy your time playing Ranger in Path of Exile 2. If you have any questions or if there is something you feel I didn't cover, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.